Welcome back to part 2 of my journey into creating a cowl and eco-printing it. Today we will get the cowl to the point where it's ready for eco-printing. So we will be doing all the fulling and the shaping, and I will be nattering all the way through. Okay, I'm going to cut it out. Now, should I use my rotary tool? I think maybe I will use my rotary tool. I think I'll get a neater edge. So if you just try and square it up a bit. These are my cut edges, I can tell because of this, the way the silk is overlapping. Yeah, this metal ruler's got the weight so it doesn't move so easily. These little bits, keep them, they will be useful. I'm just going to give it some hand rubbing now. Heal those edges. We heal those edges just by putting one finger next to it, one finger on top, and rubbing them along. Hold it then. And heal it. Now, what could be more satisfying than this, eh? I want to keep the cowls relatively square, but I quite like the organic edges. I know people obsess about the edges, but I don't want it to be perfectly neat. I want it to look handmade. I want it to look organic, and I don't want it to look a mess either. And obviously, if I was doing a hem or a neckline or a sleeve inset, then I would be definitely wanting a nice edge on there. But for, well, maybe not even a hem, but certainly for this is for me. It's not for anybody else. It's for me to wear. So I'm really not going to worry too much about the edges. I don't know if you can see the transparency, but I can see the silk, and the silk is obviously on the inside, and I can see against the light goes through it, and there's two layers of wool and silk, and the resist is still in there. And yeah, it just shows how fine you can get it with the, I mean, obviously it is going to thicken up. As it shrinks, it's going to get thicker. I'm getting myself wet as I normally do. I think when I came to doing YouTube videos, I think that was one of my concerns, kind of like, but I always look such a mess after I've been felting. I'm always sopping wet, hair everywhere. You know, I just got my hair in that. I don't know where that's come from. Certainly don't want to felt that in, and it would felt in. Yeah, I was like, how am I going to maintain any kind of decorum when I normally am looking completely soaked and dishevelled afterwards? And I kind of thought, wow, it's who I am, isn't it? So I'm not going to pretend to be somebody I'm not. Well, I'll try a little bit to be professional. See this, it's going to stick right up on the edges. I might have to just trim where it might settle itself down after I've taken it off the resist, which will be very soon. You see how much it's shrunk in comparison to the resist now? And look how that edge is really quite neat. Maybe not straight, but yeah, it is straight. I just need to straighten it. Whereas this edge is not. So, whether it's because I was doing it with my trimmer hand, I don't know. But it's not as neat, for definite. Definitely my worst edge. But we'll see what comes of it. A lot of it I do at the end when it comes to straightening. It dries how you want it to. So you can do an awful lot of stretching while it's warm and wet afterwards. I'm assuming that is a piece of silk from underneath trying to come through. Right, I think it's time to come off the resist. Well, I wasn't expecting that. There's no hole, but it is a bit thin there. This is really so very, very fine. I'm just further strengthening these delicate cut edges. And then I'll work on the seam. Where these hairs are coming from. Definitely not a job when you need a manicure. Right, I'm going along the edge now. Now, if I was working on thicker felt, I would be pulling this apart as I'm doing it. I definitely won't be pulling this apart because it's very, very fine. But if you were doing something like a bag or something, and you put lots and lots of layers on, then it is very easy to get a ridge. Or even if you're doing, more of a hat, a heavier hat, then you'd be slightly pulling these apart, but it's completely not necessary, and it wouldn't be a good thing on this particular felt, with it being so fine. The difficult bit in this is going to be not getting all these sides to curl over, because them being so fine, they're just going to want to curl over and stick to each other. Right, now I'm going to peel it off. And just give the focus on the inside a little bit. I have no idea where you come from. Well, I don't want to do too much rubbing on here because this is the side with the embellishment on. So I'm just very quick giving it a little rub just to further stabilise it before I full it. Another wonderful thing about nuno felt is the fulling is so quick. If you've ever made a pair of slippers or a bag, it goes on forever. But nuno felting is so much quicker and less labour intensive. This is just so enjoyable. Been wet felting for many years, but it never loses its appeal. You see how you can see I don't know whether it shows how you can see my hand through that. See if I need to do more from this side. I think we're ready for the really fun stuff. Right, I'll turn it the other way around again actually. So we're not bashing the embellishment on the table. Because we want that embellishment to be seen, and it could be very easily just swallowed up. Right, and then what we do is this. And you'll be amazed how quickly it'll all start shrinking. Now, I know some people bash their felt. I'm not bashing it, I'm just pushing it together and letting gravity drop it to the ground or the table. Well, the frustrating thing is because of the edges, we do need to keep going round and just making sure they haven't curled over, which is a boring bit. Okay, so now we can also do so it's kind of plumping, whatever that you'd call that, wafting, I can't remember what it's called, but not whatever you call that. So it's a combination of that and you know, I need to get some of the soap out. I'm going to squeeze some of the soap out. There we go. So really with nuno felt, it's a combination of those two things. You can also do some rolling. This bobbling. If you're making a hat, you'd really want to get rid of the bobbling. It's a bit like what's happening is you've got all your layers and some bits underneath are coming together and these bits on top aren't fully felted. So it creates this bobbling and it's the first sort of stage that happens. Now, for a quality felt, you'd want these these top parts to also felt down to create a really well felted piece of fabric. But I actually quite like the lumpy bits, so I don't mind. I'm not going to worry too much about them. There are ways, sort of by doing this, that you can get rid of them by rubbing, by rolling. There are different, and grinding, by kind of doing this. So there are ways of getting rid of them, but at the end of the day, I'll be felting this enough, so I won't need to worry about, it's not going to fall apart. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. So for me, it's going to be a combination of this, well, 4 things really. This kind of pillow plumping, the wafting, and the kneading, and then the 4th thing, the most important thing, so you don't end up with a big curled up lump, is to just keep going round. And can you see how the edges want to curl over? They will felt down like that if you're given half a chance. So you just need to keep going round and releasing them. Not worried about them being straight as such, but I certainly don't want them all curling over and felting together. Now, for some reason, a piece of felt always shrinks more in the centre than on the cut edges. My only guess, I've never had an answer for why this happens, because obviously the felt on the edges is finer, and they always say that finer felt's quicker. I'm assuming that it's because there's a cut edge, because there's nothing on this side, and wool likes wool, that it shrinks more from the edge in. So therefore the shrinkage is going that way, and there's not so much shrinkage in the other direction. That is the only way I can make sense of it. I mean, people utilise that. People know it. They know that it. They certainly know that that's the way it is, and make allowances for it when they're felting, and use that to their own advantage in pieces of felt. But why, when we all know that fine felt felt's quicker, and it's obviously finer on the edges, why it is? Got some very fine bits on the edges that are almost coming into holes, but I'm not going to worry. I'm sure it's going to look beautiful. And there's 2 places. Right, can you see how I've got a really frilly bit where it's open, and it's much smaller in the middle? So what I'm going to do is bring it over like that, so I've got all the edges together, and do some concentrated work there. And will them to felt in the direction I want them to. And this is perfectly normal. This is what you expect to happen. See what that looks like now. You hear the noise? Maybe you can hear my leg tremor. See, that's improved it a bit. Always make sure that you peel it open as well, otherwise you could end up with the top and the bottom just felting, and then that wouldn't make a very good cowl. You just have to cut it to make a short scarf, I suppose. I suppose just always bear in mind wool wants to felt. There we go, that's done a good job of doing that. Now we need to do some reshaping. I think what I need to do is measure it actually, because it's feeling already like a good piece of felt. Right, I'm supposed to be getting it down to 28. I'm not sure. I want to. Right, let's do some shaping before we do any more fulling. Don't be scared of your felt. Once you've got to this stage, it is quite malleable. Obviously these little tiny holes, I could have added fibre earlier on and tried to rescue those, but I'm just going to make it a design feature. I probably should have done for the point of view of the tutorial really. I guess I'll learn. So obviously where the bits are shorter, I'm stretching them, and where they're longer, I'm just pulling them back, just trying to get them to felt in that direction. Just to, I know I said I don't worry about edges, but do a little bit, yeah. I do apologise if my leg trembling under here is causing, I haven't listened to it back yet, but I just don't notice it, you see, so it's just part of every day. See what I mean about the edges? You can obsess all the way through, but a lot of it can be done at the end. I mean, I'm not going for perfection, as you know, but just within reason. And once I rinse it as well, and it's in warm water, it becomes even more malleable then. Because I haven't actually mentioned the temperature of the water is just room temperature. It's water that just I don't actually have a sink in my felting studio. Don't have running water, but I do have a dehumidifier. So what I do is I collect the water from my I collect the water from the dehumidifier and put it in a bucket, and then it's there when I want it. So in summer I might run out, because obviously I'm not using the dehumidifier as much in summer. But in winter I have a plentiful supply. Right, let's do some more. Let's get back to the fun stuff. The silk you won't see until it's dry. It's like it hides. You just don't see it. It obviously you can see some of the tussar silk because it's a different colour. You can see how it's all curling up because it doesn't shrink. It's just the wool that grabs it and then it all curls up. But you can't really. It's only the colour that enables you to see it. But then when it dries, it comes to life. Well, not the tussar silk will look that different actually, but because it doesn't really shine that much. But the tencel will definitely shine, and if you use other silks, you know, the shinier silks like mulberry silk, that will most definitely come to life when it's dry. You see what I mean by all this bubbling? I quite like it. Now, if I was doing a hat, or maybe even if I was doing it to sell, then I'd probably make a bit more effort to get rid of that. But I actually quite like it. And it is hardly going to fall apart. Right, how are we doing for length, width, even? Not at the end of the day, the length doesn't really matter too much, does it? Oh, I'm at. See, some bits, that bit is 29. And that bit is just over 29. Alright, so I need to go careful. You can see this bit needs doing a bit more than the rest. Stretching actually is a very helpful part of felting. It's really helpful to get a quality felt. If you imagine how the fibres are kind of like this, by stretching you really lock them together so that and then that helps them when they come back to further entangle. Right, let's do some shaping. if you have enjoyed this video, please write in the comments, or if you haven't enjoyed the video, if you just watched it and didn't enjoy it, please let me know how I can improve in the kindest possible way. And also, let me know. I mean, I have a whole list of ideas that I want to do, but if there is anything specific, and certainly if you have any questions about this particular video, please do ask me. This is only my second video, so it's all a learning curve, and I'm just used to felting alone without company, and certainly you forget what you've learnt, don't you? You think you do things automatic without remembering that at one point you didn't actually know that. So no questions silly. I'd be more than happy to help. How are you doing now? 29. You know what? I'm going to stop here because I know that when I rinse it, it's going to shrink some more. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go and rinse this in warm water, and then do some more shaping and let it dry overnight. Maybe I should at least show it you right way round. But I mean, to be honest, it's still not finished because it's getting eco printed. It was always designed to be eco printed. If I was wanting it to be white, I wouldn't have used Tussar silk. I'd have used like mulberry silk or something. But it was never intended to stay white. It's just a shame you can see the Tussar silk. You can't see I can see the pattern, but I doubt you will on the camera, where the tencel is. But yeah, you will definitely see it when I eco print it. Can't say I know when it's going to be. It's going to depend on the weather as well. But yeah, I have washed. I've done a little bit more shaping and dried the cowl, and this is what it looks like so far. As you can see, the Tussar silk has very little shine, but the tencel is gleaming. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this looks like once it's eco printed. And I'm sure you will agree, the aim was to have organic edges, but it being relatively straight. And I'm quite pleased with how it's turned out, to be honest. Really looking forward to seeing what the eco print looks like. And I don't know whether you can tell from the inside, the shiny inside, that is the Margaland silk and the effect that creates. But when it's finished, we will do some more close-ups. I really hope you enjoyed part 2. Please do, again, comment, ask questions. If no question is too silly. If you thought of that question, there's a chance that somebody else has as well. So if you put it in the comments and I can answer it, then everybody gets the benefit of the answer.